Hi guys, welcome to Q&A with Coach Rebecca. I am Rebecca Smith, the founder and director of Complete Performance Coaching, and I'm here for my weekly talk on all things sports psychology and youth sport so that I can help you, parents of athletes and coaches, get more information so you can help your athletes thrive. So what we are as Complete Performance Coaching, we are a team of highly skilled sports psychology experts who specifically specialize in young athletes, age 8 to 18, although there are a couple of phenomenal coaches on the staff who are also great with adults. But a lot of our focus here is kids. And so I've got 2 questions today from sport parents that I'm going to tackle. And then as we go along, if you're live, you can feel free to chime in, or if you're listening on the podcast, always feel free to, jump in and email me and give me your feedback, because we're really in this together. That is the whole point of the Perform Happy community, which is the online training center, is to learn from each other's experiences. And I think with these 2 things in particular, you guys might have some feedback you want to share. So feel free, to come and if you're members, of course, you can join us in the private Facebook group, or you can come to the Complete Performance Coaching Facebook page. You can email me, rebecca@performhappy.com. I want to hear your feedback. Okay, so the first question is from a member of the Perform Happy community. She is a gymnast mom, and this is her question. She says, my daughter's very technical, unlike most of her friends who are fearless and sometimes careless. One fell today out of her full, that's a tumbling skill on the floor, after being careless, and is currently in the ER after falling on her neck and shoulder. My daughter doesn't know because we're on our way back from vacation, but how do I try my best to ensure that she doesn't freak out? I don't want that fear to be put on herself. She's come so far. Okay, so my first thought, just like this mom is like, oh my gosh, can we just pretend that didn't happen and keep it kind of on the back burner, and then we'll just not talk about it, the kid will be fine and we won't have to deal with that. Because I know a lot of athletes that I work with who are overcoming fear, they worry that seeing a friend fall, or hearing about a fall, or watching somebody get injured, or one of those things could be a stumbling block to their progress. So something that I do with all my athletes, this is something that I have as part of kind of my main curriculum, is a confidence map. And on that map, we start with figuring out, okay, here you are, here's where you want to go. So we figure out point A, point B. Then we figure out the steps to get there. You figure out your goals, you break them down, you get really specific, you come up with a plan of action. And so that's really exciting. Like, great, I have goals, I'm working toward them, but then you hit a stumbling block. So on that map, we also have a really an important process of creating solutions to any potential obstacles. And so since injury comes up as a roadblock on so many of my kids' maps, we talk through it. And the way that we deal with any roadblock on the way to confidence is by coming up with at least 3 solutions. And I look at it like this, you're driving in your car toward your goals, put, you're going along, you're checking off those boxes, you are getting some progress, you're making strides, you're feeling successful, and then you hit a roadblock. And let's say it's a friend gets injured. So we'll figure out what are 3 solutions for that. And this can be, I like to look at it from how do you prevent the roadblock, first of all, how do you deal with it when you're in it, and how do you move through it smoothly if it were to happen? And that way you come up with a plan. So if it's your own injury, you prevent it by making sure that your equipment was safe, making sure that your progressions were in order, making sure that you've done everything within your control to make your environment safe, trusting your coaches, trusting your intuition. If it doesn't feel right, you pause and you look into it and you go, what's not right here? What do I need to fix? You move cautiously, which it sounds like this girl already is doing. So she's got the prevention pretty well covered. Then it's, okay, let's say crisis has hit. Now what? What do? You hurt yourself, okay? So you ice, you wrap, you make sure that you have a doctor guiding you so that you can come through it as successfully as possible. You talk about it, you come up with a plan, and then how you get back in, you go cautiously. So I talk with people about, all those big what ifs that seem like a scary question mark, like, what if that happened? That would be the end of the world. Well, it's probably not actually the end of the world. And if we get really factual about it, you'll go, okay, here's how I prevent it. This is what would happen if it were to happen. I'd get through it, and this is how. Okay, good. Now, do we freak out, or are we going to be like, okay, I have a plan, move forward? So that's what I thought of with this is, just approach it head on. Talk about it. If she wants to talk about it, talk about it. And talk about, how does that make you feel? Does that freak you out? Does that stress you out? Okay, how do we prevent it from happening for you? How likely is it that that would happen for you? How are you different from this other athlete? What did she do that you can learn from? And instead of kind of avoiding it and leaving it as this big, oh gosh, don't freak out. What would happen? Oh, what if someone got hurt? What if I got hurt? You just go, okay, if it were to happen, here's how we would handle it. Okay, this has happened. How are you different? What can we learn? How can you support her to then come through this with flying colors and realize that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. And you'll know exactly what to do if and when something should happen, but you're gonna be so prepared and so safe and so, you're gonna be in such a well-prepared environment that it's not gonna really be a big risk. Okay, so that's that question. Then I got another question from a dad of a 13-year-old basketball player. Okay, so he says, my biggest challenge is getting my 13-year-old son to play comfortably and confidently. He's a strong basketball player, but in more competitive environments, he seems to lose his confidence and defers to others on the team. I think he's absolutely capable of playing at a high level, and I'd like to know how to help him achieve his goals. Awesome. So this question came through today and I was like, oh, I got to talk about this because this is so common. I would say especially in team sports, or I hear about this in tennis too, where it's, you're playing well and then all of a sudden you kind of start being overly self-conscious. This is what I've noticed with most of my clients who have a similar situation. They become overly self-conscious. They fear failure. They're afraid of disappointing people. They're afraid of what other people will think. It's a lot of kind of outward focus on people. Typically, I've seen this come up with other basketball players, with tennis players, like I said, with a baseball player, where you just become so self-conscious that you cannot get into flow. And flow is a concept that I teach in a lot of my trainings, where you become one with your sport. It's almost like you don't even exist because you're so at peace with your mind. Your mind is almost silent and you're just executing. You're just going through the well-trained motions, executing and rising to a challenge. And as soon as you have that moment where you're like, what will people think of me? You destroy your flow. So I'm going to give you guys some, like a little quick list of reasons why people's confidence suffer under pressure, and then some ways to get your confidence back. Okay, so the main reasons why, like I said, fear of failure, which causes the mind to worry, which then causes the body to tense up, and then the body does weird things. There's a phenomenon called the yips, which you hear about in tennis and in baseball, where you all of a sudden like can't throw the ball, or you can't serve, and it's like basically a mental block in sports like gymnastics or figure skating, where your body becomes tense and starts doing very strange things, where you could practice that same jump every day as a figure skater. You could throw that same pitch every day in practice, but then you get to competition and all of a sudden like, what happened? Why can I not do this? Where did it go? And it's because the worry has sent your brain into this spaz out mode that tenses you for fight or flight. Okay, so that fear of failure creates this cycle where you're afraid you're going to fail, which makes you worry, which creates a poor performance, which reduces your confidence and makes you that much more afraid that you're going to fail next time. So you have to break that cycle of being afraid to fail. And this is not by getting perfect. And this is the mistake that most people think is, when I'm perfect and I'm perfect enough times in a row, then I will know that I'm going to be perfect and I can be confident. Okay, here's the problem. There's no such thing as perfect. The best athletes are not perfect. They are very resilient and they get back in action really quick. They get their focus back really quickly. It's not that they don't ever lose focus or get insecure or get distracted. It's that they can catch it and refocus it on the moment as quick as possible and get back into flow. So fear of failure, fear of disappointing people, anything that puts the emphasis on what other people are thinking of you, or even just worries. Any little bit of worry can make your body physically tense and change the things that you have been training. A past history of choking, like I said, the cycle. Being intimidated by your competition. So if you start looking at those other guys on the other team and going, Those guys are bigger, they're older, they're better, they have a better ranking. This is not going to be good. Again, you've set your mind into that worry pattern that then creates tension. And so somebody who's a perfectionist will subconsciously go, I'm going to let my buddy have this one. I'm going to pass it off to him. I think he's going to be better at this, because there's that fear of failure. And if you just pass the ball, then you're not going to fail. So it's in those situations, like, and with this tennis player I worked with, she would melt down anytime that she had the lead, because all of a sudden there was something to lose. But then if she was, it was like this whole mental game of who I'm playing and what their ranking is. And when really you should just play your game, play your best game. That's what the goal is, right? Okay, so here's how you do it. Now, a lot of people, I've heard people say like, well, I tried deep breathing and I tried visualizing and it didn't work. I still lost my confidence. Well, that's because those techniques that we teach in sports psychology they're those last minute fine-tuning confidence boosters, but they don't solve the underlying issues. And so that's where working one-on-one with a coach can be really useful, especially even in a short period of time. Most kids we work with for 6 sessions. And we get in, we dig up those issues like low self-confidence, fear of failure, perfectionism, fear of disappointment, comparing to other people. We look at those and we get reality on the scene. Kind of like, the girl whose friend just got injured. Let's look at it from a realistic point of view. Is anybody perfect? No. Will you fail? Okay. If you fail, what will you do? Let's say that you play the worst game of your life in front of all the most important people. Some of you guys are like, worst case scenario. Okay, so worst game of your life in front of the most important people. It just ended. What do you do? Probably talk to your coach, probably talk to your parent, depending on how supportive your parents are. You might get a lecture, you might get a hug. Parents, I recommend a hug over a lecture or any kind of explaining. You might go get dinner. They're probably not going to deprive you of dinner. Then hopefully you'll get, I always like to say ice cream after every game, not just the wins. Go get some ice cream, give some hugs, talk about other things than the game, go home, go to bed, wake up, go to school, go to practice. Like, life goes on is the point. Even if you played the worst game of your life against the most important people, life would go on, wouldn't it? But sometimes it feels like that possibility would literally kill you. And if you feel that way, if you have that question mark of what would happen if I failed, well, you'd be bummed. You would talk it out with your coach. You might have to endure a lecture from your parent. You go home, you go to bed, you wake up, you do the next day. You go back to practice, you learn from your lessons of, what were the mistakes? What wisdom do I have as a result of that crash and burn? Great. I'm going to apply that to practice and go back in the next game. And my commitment to myself is to get better, not to get perfect, but to get better. Even if it's only a little bit. Even if you have to have, I work with people that sometimes are having a learning season, and that's the worst. It's always those seasons where you're learning about yourself as an athlete from a mental capacity because you're falling apart. You learn though, and you go to the next game and you get a little better, you get a little better, you get a little better. And then by next season, you are tough as nails because you've gone through all of it. You've melted down, you've been embarrassed, you've had your Simone Biles 2013. Where she was melting down, freaking out, getting pulled from meets because she was such a head case. And then she worked with a sports psychology coach who helped her figure out her deeper issues. And now, that we all know her story. So don't worry about failure. That's my takeaway for you athletes. Get ready for it. Have some failure. And then afterward, go learn from it. Okay? Let go of over trying. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. The process of getting, drafted for college or elite or professional sports is very uncomfortable. So get used to it now, and you're going to be fine once you move forward from there. And then the keys to increasing your confidence, put in the work, pound the pavement, go to practice, work your butt off so that there isn't any doubt in your physical preparation. My mom was a singer, and she always would say, she'd have this horrible stage fright. But then she said the way that she got over it was by being so prepared that nothing could go wrong. So she knew that the nerves were just a part of her imagination, basically, and she was going to be fine. So if you have put in the work and you've put in the practice to the point where you know your body is ready, then that sets you up really nicely to go in and go, it's just pre-competition jitters. I'm going to breathe it out. I'm going to go and do my best. If I fail, I'm not going to get kicked off the team. It's going to be okay. And a lot of you guys are like, but what if it is that one important game that matters so much? There's no such thing. And you're probably like, no, that's not true. But there's a swimmer who went to the Olympic trials and totally failed. And he learned this amazing lesson and then went back and made the Olympic team the next time. So believe me, there's no such thing as like that one opportunity. So let go of that. Let go of needing to be perfect. Let go of this matters more than other things. It doesn't. It's just one day. Focus on what you can control and try to get positive. Find the silver lining. Okay, if you fail, what's good about that? You'll gain wisdom. If you make a mistake, it will give you information that helps you to course correct for next time. And then also keep track of what you're doing right. So for you athletes out there, keep a list of victories after every single practice where even if it was the worst game of your life or the worst practice, you can always find 3 things that you did well. And my baseball player who used to melt down under the pressure, and he also played basketball and was really freaked out by the other people, when he started keeping track of his wins after each practice and each game, his confidence went up little by little to the point where he didn't notice the other people anymore. And then he was able to get his head under control. So those little things you do every day really start to add up. Okay, parents, quick couple of tips for you guys. Praise small victories, just like we want the athletes to do. If you notice they did one little thing right in the worst practice or the worst game, point it out, because they're being hard on themselves. You do not need to point out the things they did wrong. They know. Point out the victories, and then don't compare them to anybody else. Just don't say, hey, that guy had a good game today. It's not worth it, because what that means to your athlete is that guy did better than you, you stink. Like, that's what we automatically go to. So if you can avoid that, be positive, focus on the victories, don't compare. And if you guys want a little extra help for parents, there's a free download at CompletePerformanceCoaching.com/5. And that is the 5 things you never want to say to your athlete after a game. This is ways to salvage the confidence after, a good game or a bad game. And that's CompletePerformanceCoaching.com/5. You can download that for free. And I'm going to leave you guys with this final little list here from this guy is a Major League Baseball scout, and this is his advice. Okay, he says, I always have parents explaining to me how bad their son wants to play college baseball and what they do, if I could read, okay, and what do they need to do to make it? So this kind of goes along with the last part of this dad's question is, I want to make my kids' dreams a reality. Okay, so this is from the mouth of a Major League Baseball scout. He said, I scouted with the New York Yankees for over 17 years. I scouted with the Texas Rangers for 5 years, and I'm now with the MLB Scouting Bureau. I've run my baseball club for 25 years. We've sent well over 600 players to college on scholarship over the years. If there's one thing I've learned, it's stop wasting your breath telling others about yourself or your son. I, along with your high school/summer coach and future college coach, will know how badly you want it by the attitude and body language you show, by how well you accept criticism, by the time you arrive and leave practice, by the energy you bring each day, by all the extra work you do away from practice, by the quality of food you eat, by the effort you show between the lines, by how grateful and appreciative you are, by the eagerness you show to want to get better, by the type of friends you keep. Actions will always speak louder than words. So that is my suggestion to you, Dad, which I'm sure your son is already doing. Allow them to have those actions speak really, really loudly, and then help them with those other things, with those underlying issues. And for any of you who want more support, you can grab a free coaching session with one of the fabulous CPC coaches at CompletePerformanceCoaching.com/schedule. You get a free 20-minute coaching session with any of the 5 of us. Coach Jimmy is our team sport specialist extraordinaire. So for any of you guys on team sports teams, go grab a coaching session with Jimmy. He's phenomenal. Otherwise, you can also do it yourself at performhappy.com, where you can do all the self-training you want through all of our online courses, live trainings, etc. Thank you guys for tuning in this week, and I'll see you again next week.